Welcome to the Believe, Be Real, Be Bold podcast for authentic daters. I'm your host, Dave in Denver. Each week, we invite expert guests to come share their knowledge, tools, and tips to help you show up as your most authentic self. All right, guys, welcome back to the Believe, Be Real, Be Bold podcast. I am so happy you have come back once again to listen to this week's expert. I'm so excited to introduce her. Her name is Skylar Drake. She owns a business called, let me look it up here really quick, Relate and Rebel Coaching, where she helps, she's super passionate about addressing her clients' needs when it comes to a lack of confidence and worth in who that authentic self is for them. Welcome. How are you today, Skylar?
I'm good. Thanks for having me here, Dave.
My pleasure. Absolutely. I love to ask the question, how did you get started in being a dating coach and a relationship coach?
Yeah, I think there's a long answer, there's a longer answer, and there's a short answer to that question. I think I've been walking towards this point for a long time. Almost pursued becoming a professor in sociology and gender studies and was deep in academia studying people and how people connect. And it was fascinating to me. And I think the first intuitive hit I took in my career was deciding not to pursue a PhD and stay in what we call the ivory tower of academia and be in the real world. And from there, it was kind of tricky to figure out how I work in my passion of connection and people and how we relate when no traditional career that I was seeing really seemed to fit the bill. I thought therapy might be it, maybe counseling's the way to go, but something wasn't quite right. And I think for me now I understand it's because therapy deals with a lot of the past and a lot of the present, and coaching's about the future. And so, I've kind of been winding my way through entrepreneurship as a realtor to this place of independently creating the space for me to work with people on their present as it relates to their future in bringing the connection and resonance into their life that I think we're all capable of, and more people feel is so far away from them in this digital society. So it's beautiful work. I'm happy to do it, and I kind of create what I'm doing every day as the ball keeps rolling.
Sure, of course. Who is it that you find coming to you most looking for help and assistance?
Yeah, well, my business is young, which I consider a blessing. It's so much fun, which means that the clients I'm serving, the consults I'm doing, and the people I'm working with are always evolving. I will say I'm working with a lot of entrepreneurs, which is probably because I'm in that space and I'm passionate about the ability we have in this modern internet age to build a business anywhere, right? It's so much fun. And so I work with entrepreneurs who need to build community. Because when I talk about relationship coaching, it's not just who we're dating, although obviously that's often the paramount relationship in our life, our partner. But I believe we get to have deep love, deep resonance, and real authentic connection on a broad scale, and that when you're building a business, the best way you can advantage that business is to seat yourself in authentically rooted community. So I work with a lot of people who are not maybe looking to find the love of their life, but looking to create love on a broader scale. And then some of my clients are really interested, and this is what it all comes down to, in doing the personal, deep, emotional, mental work we need to do to become ready to walk in the world and receive that deep resonance and connection. We have to come ready, or we will never be able to foster, create, and receive the way we're really able.
Oh, that's a great perspective on something that I've been thinking about a lot recently, and I like to say that it starts with you. Mm-hmm. So when people talk about dating, they always talk about I need to get into a relationship. Well, what's the homework that we can be doing before that process? I mean, you said getting in touch with your authentic self, and that's in complete alignment with what I've been going through for the past year or so.
Yeah, I think it's huge getting in touch with our authentic self, but I think before we can do that, we have to be okay with what we find there. We have to be okay with who we are authentically. Because if you're going to find a partner and find someone to share those deeper parts of yourself, you need to be comfortable sharing them. I mean, anytime we walk in the world, whether to make friends, meet a partner, network for our business, we are literally asking people to judge us. And we're hoping that they judge us positively. So if we don't have a really positive relationship with all the aspects of ourselves, we're going to have a really hard time being open and vulnerable and sharing ourselves in a way that makes us okay when some people judge us the other way. And I think in personal relationships on any scale, in order for us to be ready to have deeper connection, we need to have a deep connection with ourselves, to know who we are, and to love that person enough that anyone can take it or leave it. And you're still going to want to share it, and you're still going to want to be known at that level.
Wow, that's bold. That's impactful for me. I'm sitting here and I'm listening to that, and it's almost like you're touching a chord and you're hitting home with that exact statement. So it can be scary, and it can be hard. What does somebody do when they come up against that authentic self and they're afraid to go forward, or they don't necessarily are comfortable with what they find?
Yeah, it's a great question, and I think we all find ourselves there. I mean, I do this work, and I still have moments with myself where I have to check myself when I'm negative self-talking, when I'm being harsh about an aspect of myself that is real. And I think a concept I share with my clients sometimes that's sort of powerful, when we're in that place where we're looking at ourselves and we want to be hard on ourselves, we want to bring that harshness of the world, and try and cut ourselves down to size or push ourselves in a box, is the idea of reparenting. If you can look at yourself like a child or like a teenager and hear what you're saying to yourself, you'll understand where the dialogue is not feeding your soul, is not nourishing your growth. I think when it talks about kids or, half-baked humans, they're not done. We have this innate kindness, right? You're not gonna see some teenager who's like, oh, I feel scared about asking out this girl, and be like, yeah, you shouldn't. You need to go home. You're a nerd. Like if we heard that, we wouldn't be encouraging a kid to talk that way. We would be nurturing their growth and giving them the advice we never take. Oh, be yourself. And if they're meant to be with you, they'll love you how you are. In our heads, we look at ourselves and we put out this other voice, our own highest critic. And I think sometimes we need to check ourselves and create a nurturing space in our own minds. Try and get out of ourselves a little bit to look more objectively as a friend would, as a parent would. And from there, maybe we can see when some of the messaging we're giving ourselves is cutting us down instead of building us up.
That's a good way to look at it. Sometimes I get some feedback on, Dave, you're super intense. I don't know if you catch that or not, but I can be intense about certain things. However, when it comes to children, I actually melt, and I think I might actually apply that concept to my own life sometimes of when I am negatively talking to myself or about myself or punishing myself for this or that, or I may actually just outside looking in, talk to my inner child. Yeah. So that's not something I've done before.
Most people don't. We think we're grown. We think we understand now, right? And then when we're achievers, when we're ambitious or goal-oriented, right? We're like, I know. I'm an adult, and I know if I get up every day and I do this workout, if I only eat these foods, if I stay on task and I'm productive during this time window, I will be good. And all this other messaging about what we need to be good or what we need to do to be worthy suddenly washes over all the soft, simple truths that we have as humans about our value to another. And our value to another is never whether we rigorously checked every box in our internal to-do list. It's who we are. It's how we love. It's the energy we give off. It's what's fun about us, or what's serious or poignant or thoughtful or quirky. You know what I mean? And we get in our own way sometimes as adults. We think we're done, we get it. And we never get it. We're always learning. And so it usually is always going to serve us to put a little bit of that self-parenting role on and figure out where we're getting in our own way when it comes to kindness and self-love.
Okay, being kind with yourself. What are some common ways people get in their own way?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, a huge one when it comes to the world of relating is the imaginary conversation. We spin out these elaborate pictures of what's going to happen if we go to that party or if we, take that blind date. And we get so far into our envisioning of what would happen that we are, A, not living in the present. It's the only thing here. We got to be in the present. But B, we're creating and living in fears of what might happen that have never come to pass. So I think people sometimes, in protecting themselves, in trying to envision what's going to happen or what if they can't come up with something to say and there's a big awkward silence? Because everyone's terrified of awkward silences. Like, that's the worst thing ever, right? They are living in a fear. You know what I mean? And if we can if someone can bolster that self-worth so much that they're like, yeah, what if there's an awkward silence? What if?
Yeah.
You know, and it doesn't terrify them.
Okay.
And then get out of the future and just find a way, and there are so many ways, to make the brave move, to do the thing before you write a story about what's going to happen. I mean, the number one way people get in their way with relationships is they stay at home. They stay on the internet. They stay on Instagram. They stay in their friend group. They get on the phone with their college friend they've known for 15 years because it is so much easier and more comfortable to not expose ourselves to judgment. Mm-hmm. But if we're not exposing ourselves to negative judgment, we are not exposing ourselves to positive judgment and the potentiality for new friendships, new love, all that good stuff that happens when we're willing to get uncomfortable.
Let me clarify. You're telling me I can't find positive judgment on Instagram?
You can find positive judgment on Instagram and Facebook, but here's the trap.
Okay.
And it's a total trap, and even I have to be really conscious of not falling into it. You make a photo and you filter it, and you're like, here's the beach vacation. I look great. You can see I look hot in my bikini. This angle is on point. I don't have two chins. I'm going to filter it. I'm going to put it on Instagram. And everyone loves it, right? Because we're so in this habit of receiving and loving the beautiful images fluttering down our, news feeds or whatever. Mm-hmm. But what if you wanted to share something more raw, less filtered, and half as many people liked it because they didn't have trigger finger with it. They don't know what to do. They're not going to just go, oh, like that. They're like, what is this?
Right.
So you get fewer likes. That heart or not heart is not measuring how you resonated. It's not measuring the impact you had, the ability you tapped into to reach into someone else's heart and soul and touch them. And so when we get too caught up in that form of validation, that like I clicked it or I didn't click it and then I kept scrolling, we're overlooking the deeper impact we get to have when we can let go of that need for positive judgment and focus on what we're sharing and who we're being.
Mm-hmm. I can totally resonate with that because I'm very present on social media, but I'm not spending any time there. Mm-hmm. So I post and then I go away. But I always have to remind myself that the people I want to spend time with are always watching. Mm-hmm. And let's take it like a business sense. In running the gym or running maybe the message of the podcast, I don't mind if they don't like right now or if they don't comment on a post right now. I just really want, when they're ready, to be able to reach out and say, now is the time for me to start. Mm-hmm. Where do I get started? And that's why I reach out. I'm not the expert. That's why I reach out to people like you and the other podcast guests to tell us where to start. Mm-hmm. The hardest part is getting started, taking that first step towards our goals.
Yeah.
And let's just say that I've been taking mini steps, mm-hmm. tiny steps towards that goal, and I'm kind of tiptoeing the deep end and I want to plunge in. How do I plunge all in with this process?
Which process specifically?
The one that we were talking about earlier of just like self-discovery.
Yeah, okay.
Liking what we find there or addressing what we don't like when we find it. And I dipped my toe in the deep end, and now I'm ready to plunge all in.
Love it. So this is really where I love to meet my clients at, where they come on for coaching, because that's the work we do. I mean, I always joke that I'm a relationship coach because that is the problem people will go out of their way and even pay to solve. But what I actually do is self-love coaching. Because if you love yourself so deeply, you will not have trouble accepting love, seeking it, receiving it, and teaching people how to give it, right? So how to dive all in? Well, you fall in love with yourself. You reconceptualize how you're treating yourself, and you take time to dwell in what you love about yourself. So this can mean a lot of things, and for everyone it's really different. I try and keep my coaching really customizable and really flexible for what's actually going to feel more natural. And it's not always very natural to begin the work of diving into falling in love with ourselves. No one in our culture, in our society, is going to teach you to do that. There's billions of dollars funneling through the economy, encouraging you to pay for all services that would fix you, shape you, gloss you over, make your face look prettier. There's forces at work trying to stop us from being totally satisfied with who we are, right? Mm-hmm. No one would profit off that, except hopefully me if you did a coaching program and we got you there. But I think, affirmations are really powerful, and they're so cheesy, and people resist them, fight them, scream, and kick, but at the end of the day, affirmations are a way to retrain your brain, right? So if you have a combination of the things you know you love about yourself and the things you're the most anxious about, and you flip the anxious ones, you go from, I'm really awkward sometimes because I have weird interests, to I'm really interesting to talk to because I have unique things to say about my unique interests. You take the thing that makes you anxious, you flip it, and you add it to, I know I feel and look good in my body because I'm really in shape and I work on that. Mm-hmm. And say you know that. So you add both and you literally begin to read, vocalize, or write. For some people, writing is more powerful, doing your lines. Begin to retrain your brain to flip the switch. And it feels ridiculous for, they say building a habit takes 21 days, or there are different numbers, but it feels ridiculous until it doesn't. Until your brain is catching you in the false story automatically because you have taken the time to retrain it. So that's like the flashcards version of beginning to build a more positive relationship with the aspects of yourself that you're getting yourself down on, and then build up to shine brighter the things you already know you love. So those are super powerful. Another thing to do is spend time with yourself in your joy, doing something you love. Date yourself.
Okay.
Relish being with yourself, and don't have room for any negative self-talk or criticism within it. Treat yourself like a date. You're going to get to know yourself. You're going to have a good time. Take yourself out to dinner if you want. I had a client recently do this. I was so proud. I was like, heck yeah. You know what I mean? And she had a great time. Because when we prioritize our relationship with ourselves that way, we're literally saying, I am enough. I am more than enough. So, there's so many practices like this that we can begin to enrich our relationship with ourselves through, and then have a stronger foundation to share that self with others. That's less likely to crumble if we get rejected. Because it happens.
Absolutely. Right? Yeah. Quite often.
Yeah.
So once we arrive at this point of self-love, I love dating myself. I absolutely do. I don't drink coffee, but I would imagine that going on a coffee date with myself mm-hmm. would be a really great place to start.
Absolutely.
People call it self-care, but I love this dating yourself. Go to a coffee shop and read or write or simply just enjoy a few moments by yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. And writing is a powerful way to talk to yourself. It slows you down. It lets you catch the thought waves. It lets you engage with what you thought 5 minutes ago. And I'm glad you mentioned that. Because writing, you can call it journaling, you can call it pages, you can call it writing. You know what I mean? It doesn't need to be your diary.
Sure.
But writing is a way of literally talking to ourselves and slowing ourselves down so we can see it. Going to get coffee with yourself is a fantastic, easy, not too time-consuming way to just make time to be with yourself. Yeah. I love that.
I got caught this morning and I went to coffee. I don't drink coffee, so I had tea. And the gentleman behind the counter said, "Do you want it for here to go?" Well, if I'm going to intentionally date myself, then I might as well get that cup of tea for here.
Yeah.
So that it forces me or it holds me accountable mm-hmm. on my own to sit and to be there, to be present with myself for those few moments.
Absolutely. And I think, if you're going to make the time to be with yourself that way, you do what sounds fun to you. Mm-hmm. So go to a coffee shop you really like. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Not Starbucks.
Take yourself to the aquarium if you've always wanted to go. Go to City Park and walk. If there's a restaurant that you keep hearing about and you keep wanting to try and you haven't thought to make plans to go see and visit with someone, why not go there? Mm-hmm. Don't take time with yourself doing something yourself doesn't want to do. That's not a good date. But if you're feeling inclined and you got your cup of tea and you want to take a moment, take a moment. If you meditate, that's kind of a meditative process. I think meditation is beautiful. I do it daily. It's powerful. And sometimes people miss that meditation is time with ourselves above all else. it's centering in the present, or it's trying to clear our mind, but there's a million different ways to meditate. And at heart, what we're doing is being there with ourselves. And I think enjoying a cup of tea alone is a very meditative prospect right there.
And that could be done at home also. Like, say you've got a sunny spot that you like to read at home, grab a cup of tea and spend time with yourself. I love that you said take a walk around the park. I take daily walks with the dog. I try to do it twice a day around City Park. And it's something that I got into a routine of, and it helped me both physically, but more so mentally and emotionally too, because it was me. It was my time. And nothing else infiltrates that time.
Yeah. I'm so glad you said that, because rituals are powerful. And, you know, I was just chatting with a client about this, and we were talking about structure. She's like, I want structure. Okay. There's a lot of different things that means. But so often when we say structure, we resist, right? And we talked about the term rhythm as it applies to our rituals with ourselves. If we have a rhythm that we can fall into, if we know that in every passing increment of time, we're gonna have an opportunity to come back to ourselves in a way that's powerful, centering, grounding, soul feeding, we can put up with that much more crap in between the rest of our day, because our rhythm assures us through a natural ebb and flow that we are going to get the time to recover, we're going to get the peace we need, and we're going to get the true self-care. And there's such a difference between what is becoming popularized as self-care and what is real self-care. I mean, if you love taking baths, that's great, that can be self-care. Your self-care, maybe eating breakfast every day, maybe you're not doing that, maybe that's the real self-care, right? And so when we have that rhythm of self-care, you know, it's like, not to compare us to dogs, but Denver's a dog-friendly city, so I feel like you've got one, I've got one, right? We can talk about it. They know rhythm.
They do.
They function on it. And if you have a hyperactive dog, mine is one, she's a lot, super smart, super energetic, they can be a nightmare. They can spend all day tearing apart your couch or annoying the neighbors. But if they trust their rhythm, if they trust they're going to get a 30-minute walk in the morning and a 30-minute walk at night, that same dog won't tear up the couch. Well, maybe some dogs would. I'm not going to pretend to know all the canines out there. But they will maybe take a nap. They will maybe be a little anxious but not act out. They will be able to function when it's not easy for them, when they're lonely or stressed out, because dogs are so tuned into rhythm. They have this innate trust when you build a routine for them that they're going to be taken care of. And that applies to humans too. Just because our brains are bigger and more complex and we have more to do and we're on the internet and we're taking meetings and, you know, we're doing all these things, we still function very well with rhythm.
I like that you brought it back around to humans, because it planted a seed in my mind about reparenting ourselves. And why I bring this up is because parenting a child maybe with ADD, ADHD, I'm not a doctor, I'm supposing here that those